But there's this real opportunity that we must relinquish by actually leaning into disagreement. I think we need to disagree more, but it's also how we disagree.
If we just produced a report, it would just end up sitting on a shelf and no one would ever read it. So how could we have a conversation about a tricky subject, working with others to support us to do that?
We're not trying to speak for young people or marginalised communities. We're creating platforms where they can speak for themselves and be heard.
We've learned a lot and we've got far more questions. Every time we learn something, we find out more. But the big question that we go back to is, well, are we just in a bubble asking these questions? Are we curious, but is the rest of Scotland curious? Like, what does it mean? I've heard lots of powerful people in positions. Is it that when they use the name Hume, do people know who they're talking about? So we asked a question. We did a public attitude survey, and we asked people, first of all, did they know David Hume? Had they heard of the Scottish Enlightenment? If they had heard of David Hume, what 3 words would they associate with him? And then also, what was their thinking about history? Did they think history was something we could learn from, or should history be left in the past and actually it doesn't influence our lives today? And absolutely, overwhelmingly, people told us, more than 3 in 4 people told us they wanted to learn from history. So that was a fascinating piece of nuggets for us. But we also wanted to avoid being accused of, well, you've skewed the question. That's a positive way to ask the question. So we asked it the flip side as well, and the questions are asked in random order. So we asked, should history be left in the past? And do you think history influences our lives today as well? Just to check that positive answer, more than 3 in 4 people wanting to learn from history, was the actual one. And actually, yeah, it was. We got a really similar answer the other way around when we asked the question.
It's really important to learn from history because it provides us with an avenue to not only understand the past, but also how we can create a better future based on the knowledge that we have, the understanding that we have, the books that we've read, the places we have been. So our understanding of this is based on what do we know about David Hume? What did he do? What are the consequences of his work? And it's also important to hold 2 ideas that are so different, that as a philosopher, he contributed to society a great deal, but also there are some aspect of that history that is complex and how we explore that story together and to be able to create a new story and a better understanding of his work and his consequences in our history here today.
So the David Hume Institute is all about having conversations. One of the things that inspired our founders was a quote that they used, which was about arguments amongst friends, and they really liked that. But we've had lots of conversations with people that know David Hume and with those that have never heard of them. And then we looked for people to work with that perhaps wouldn't usually work in this space. And the reason we were doing that is we thought if we just produced a report, it would just end up sitting on a shelf and no one would ever read it. So how could we have a conversation about a tricky subject, working with others to support us to do that? So we have worked using hip hop as a tool to compare David Hume's philosophy and his racism with hip hop lyrics that are used today. We were on a walking tour and how we look at the history that's all around us, and that we might pass every day when we're rushing around to work or taking kids to school or all those things, but stuff that's under our noses that we don't always see. And then we're also working with Theatre of the Oppressed to have created a play that we will be airing soon to a wider audience, and that discusses like really tricky issues, but the way they operate, it means the play goes through for the first 25 minutes and then the audience get to interject and change the story of the play. It's a really innovative way of working that's very different for discussing tricky issues, but allows you to see things from other people's points of view.
When Susan had come to me, I knew it was a way to have meaningful engagement about the race aspect of it, and how we can use theatre and performance to truly have a depth of understanding about what Black and brown people want, how they want to tell the story, how it affects them today, how they want to share that with the rest of Scotland. And again, in a safe and meaningful way. And it's actually brought an opportunity for me to work with artists who've never been in a space before where everybody's Black and brown, apart from the one person who has to mix it up a bit. But to have that safety in that space to not only deliver their art, but to really dig deep on their experiences and showcase that knowledge and that work and that solution-focused way of working to truly tell the story.
Through the integration of hip-hop education into this academic situation, it's been a joy to watch these young people develop their critical thinking skills, as well as new ways of expressing themselves through songwriting as well as performance.
Authority choose what they want to know, what action to take. They choose what they want to do. It's inclusion until it comes to my race. David Hume, critical thinking, and cultural critique. If I don't make money like the white man, then I'm unique. Now, learning hip-hop education definitely made me feel more confident in my own intelligence. Especially the way I've been putting words together, I didn't think I'd have the ability to do that. But yeah, now I've definitely shocked myself, and it's been an experience.
Found subjects like, philosophy, history, that kind of thing. I always found them quite interesting, and I thought I'd always kind of wanted to go into depth more, and learning about David Hume has really kind of only inspired me to learn more about it further.
Before this subject, I never really looked into philosophy. I always thought it was just pointless and boring. I never really knew what it was.
The fact that it affects them and their ancestors was a pull for us to truly get the depth of creativity from them, because they were really able to dig deep and have an understanding of maybe some of the words that David Hume used that resonated with them today and should have been a factor of the experiences they have today. It was funny because we're in the mode of hip hop education. We're having fun. We're looking at creativity. We're looking at young people performing and more than just performing, but truly having that space for their mental health and having that space for that expression. It was them that was bringing David Hume into it. I was like, oh yeah, that's why we're here. And we were like, oh, they're remembering why we're here. Let's talk about David Hume. Let's talk about and that for that to happen was quite funny. Everything we do, whether it's through hip hop or hip hop education or forum theatre, is about creating space for people who are often left out. We're not trying to speak for young people or marginalised communities. We're creating platforms where they can speak for themselves and be heard.
What we're finding is this project is allowing people space to think really deeply about something that they might not have done otherwise. And even people that have been heavily involved in anti-racist work for many, many years have said, thinking about this, it gave them an opportunity to think differently.
I think it's really important that we remain in dialogue, and there's that seduction to shut down debate, perhaps when we are confronted about things that do not agree with our belief system. We are a function of what we have learned. we're a function of the education that we have received. But there's this real opportunity that we must relinquish by actually leaning into disagreement. I think we need to disagree more, but it's also how we disagree. If this disagreement creates a sense of renewal for us to forge a new understanding, then it's an opportunity that we cannot afford to miss, because that's what will give opportunities for the next generation to be able to forge new relationship and to be able to cross boundaries, be it cultural boundaries, psychological boundaries, political boundaries, because what that silence does is that it puts up walls, and we need to be able to cross those boundaries. And dialogue gives us that opportunity to cross those boundaries.